Friends will be there for you, but not all of them are good for you.
Listen to Cindy and I talk about our friendship and the trifling friends of the past. Hello.
Hi, Chanel. Why are you already laughing?
Just continue.
I can't.
Can. You were about to talk about our friends.
Yeah, I was about to talk about friends and about how crazy my friends are. But
I'm crazy, but I'm crazy good.
Oh, that's that. See, and this is the reason why we needed that. Crazy good versus crazy bad. Mm-hmm. I've recently learned that there's a different distinction between crazy good and crazy bad.
How so?
Well, I always just, whenever I think of crazy, I think of crazy in a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Because crazy comes across as like wild, like all in your face. But somebody was like, when I was like, oh, I used wild. I had a wild day today. And wild and crazy to me are synonymous. So they're like wild in a good way. And I was like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's just like when you think wild, I think all over the place, disorganized, just nothing really going the way that you expect it, wild. And I think the same thing is crazy. So when someone was like wild good, wild bad, and you're like crazy good, crazy bad, if I'm going to use crazy, it's negative. If I'm going to use wild, it's negative.
Oh.
But maybe I need to up myself to the nuances. Everything is nuanced.
Yes.
And that's what I've realized. Everything is nuanced.
That should have been a season 1 episode.
Everything. Stop.
Yeah, I need to stop. Go ahead.
Yeah. But anyway, what I was trying to get at is I've had a lot of friends in life. And I think that's because, one, I've moved around a lot. Mm-hmm. But also, I'm the type of person who needs to be around people. I'm the most comfortable when I'm around people. And that's even something that I've learned with being here. I currently like live alone. I'm doing this whole adulting thing myself, but my home is a revolving door of people. I always have someone in my house. And it's gotten to a point where I will be talking to coworkers and I'll tell them, they're like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, oh, I have so-and-so coming over. And one of my coworkers calls me the hostess with the mostest.
Ooh.
Because she's like, you never not have people around. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I have a lot of friends, but at the same time, they're not all close friends.
Yeah.
And I have a good story of someone that I will say, I used to call them a friend. And I feel like it was someone who was like taking advantage of me. And that's something that I deal with a lot with having a lot of friends being taken advantage of, because people assume that my niceties are just something that I just give without any sort of, it's like give, no take type of things. Like I give, and I'm not expecting anything. So I had a friend who right before I moved, I got let go from my last job. Like after I graduated, the day I graduated with grad school, you're no longer a student. You're no longer an employee of your university. So I was no longer making money. And I wasn't starting my new job until like the end of July. So I had from the beginning of May to the end of July of unemployment. And I was supposed to somehow figure out how to pay for things. And I tried to figure out like how unemployment works so I could get checks. But then when I was looking into how they were going to be taxed later, I was like, this is more of a hassle than anything else. Trying to file for unemployment when I know I have a job coming up, because the rules for Texas specifically is that if you file for unemployment, they'll put you in a like candidate pool. And based off your resume, you can get like, if a job reaches out to you and you say no, your unemployment will be taken.
Yeah.
And I just finished a PhD, right? It's not like my resume was not considered like exemplary or whatever. So if a job were to reach out to me being like, you have qualifications, we understand like you're overqualified for the jobs, but we're understanding you need a job. If I turned them down because I had another job coming up, I wouldn't have gotten unemployment. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what? It's easier for me to just work off my savings. I'm getting money to help me relocate. That's going to hit right before I move. And I can just coast on that until I get my first paycheck, which I didn't get till like the second week of August. So beginning of May to second week of August. I had a woman who I called a friend who was hitting me up because I was getting ready to move. And this was going to be the last time that she was going to see me in said state before I moved. She had stated that she was willing to come and visit me in California. So she came over and I was just like in the mode of this chapter is closing. I'm about to start a new chapter and I'm focusing on this new chapter. I had put together like a sort of Excel spreadsheet. I will say this is where the anal type A part of me came out because I had a spreadsheet.
Women in STEM.
Women in STEAM. Oh, don't forget the A.
Sorry, arts people.
I had put together this spreadsheet and it was listing of all the places that I want to live, the proximity it was, like time-wise from work, the square footage, the amount it was and the amount per square footage, and then just listing of like locations, walkability, whatever. It was just a full spreadsheet of places. And then I had a second tab on that spreadsheet, which had a schedule showcasing where I put days and made sure that all the locations were, if it's like Monday, all the locations were within like a 5-minute walking distance, not walking, but driving distance of each other to ensure that I had time to go through an hour or so tour and then, you know, take a break. I'm telling you all this like you didn't know you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
But anyway, you need this background to understand.
I remember you working on the spreadsheet and you were asking me, you got any ideas? I'm like, this one, this one, that one, this one.
We were in the same wavelength, right? And this is adding to the fact we are friends.
Yes.
So this is adding to the story. You as my friend looked at this and was like, this is smart. This is a good idea. We're only in California for a week.
Yeah, it was time crunch.
And it's like, the Bay Area is huge. The Bay Area is huge. And as someone who's never been in California before, I didn't understand how vast it was and how many apartments can be put into such a small, compact place, let alone if I wanted to go farther out than like this Bay Area, right? So this girl came over, right? She initially wanted to go out to get dinner. She wanted to go get coffee. She wanted to go get a meal, whatever. And I was just like, hey, here's the thing. I don't have a job. I don't really want to go spending money, but you're more than welcome to come hang out. Like we can watch a movie. We can do some sort of activity together. But at the same time, I was like, well, I'm packing. There's not really anything that I want to take out. So maybe we can just catch up and she can talk to me and we can talk about like my future travel because that's something that's on the brain. So she comes over, she sits down, we're having a conversation. I'm really excited because this is the beginning of my new life. I'm no longer in school after 21 years. I'm super duper excited to find my apartment, right? Something pretty, something cute. I don't know, just something different. So I sit down and I open the spreadsheet and I haven't even gotten to like talking about the places and she starts to laugh.
Why did she laugh?
Exactly my thought. So I looked at her and I was like, what's so funny? I don't understand what's funny. And she was like, I've just never seen anybody do this before. And I was like, do what? And she goes, you put in so much effort and you're only finding a place to live. And I was just like, well, it's not just only finding a place to live. Like I only have so much money and so much time. And, you know, like we were trying to find, like we weren't staying in, like we were in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right. But like everything that I was looking for was on like the East Bay. So it's not like I was anywhere remotely close. It's not like we could have, you know, gone to our hotel and then walked to some of these locations. We had to drive. And even though the drive was like about less than like maybe 30 minutes or so with traffic, it's not like we could have done it back and forth because in San Francisco, there's the Bay Bridge, and that's a toll. That's $7 each time you go from the East Bay into San Francisco. It was not financially feasible. So we had to be very, very smart about our time.
Yeah.
And again, we were only there for 5 days. And I think we had at the time 21 apartments.
Yeah.
In 5 days.
And this is your first time coming to California. It's going to be, how many states is that? You're going through so many states. Texas to California.
Yeah.
And you just want her, like, what does she want you to do? Just be like, bye, I'm leaving tomorrow. I don't know where I'm going to live.
Right. I think she literally legitimately thought I was going to get to California, drive around, and if I found a place that I liked, walk in just based on the outside or based off of research. So she just started laughing and she was like, I wouldn't have done it that way. And then I was like, well, we're different. And so I just started going through, and that already set me off. But again, her continued disinterest pushed me more over the edge, where I was just like, after talking to you, after talking to like some other people that I considered friends, there were some people who laughed, but not because of the fact that it was like they didn't understand it. They were just like, you really are ready to get out of this place.
Yeah.
That's what they were laughing at. It's like, you graduated 2 days ago and you already have a full spreadsheet of all the places
Prepped
that you
and
want to
ready.
live. Right.
Let's go.
And so that was the laughing that I was used to. So the fact that she was laughing over how ridiculous it was showcased to me, number one, like, this was the first thing on that day. This girl may not be my friend.
Red flag, red
Right.
flag.
So we continue, because now at this point, I'm not interested in talking to her. Like,
Yeah.
you just brought down my spirits. And so we've been sitting, we're doing whatever. We're like finishing up a conversation. Can't remember what we talked about. And my stomach started to growl. This is maybe like an hour and a half into her being here. And so initially we were supposed to meet to go get food. I said to her, hey, no, I can't eat with you, but like, I'm happy to hang out with you afterwards, right? So I said, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I haven't eaten yet. Do you mind if I go get food? She goes, no problem. So I go, I'm putting together my meal, and she turns over and she's looking at me, and I look at her and I go, are you hungry? And she's like, yeah, I didn't eat.
Why didn't you eat?
And I said, okay, well, I guess I can make you a plate. And so I made her a plate of my food. Sorry, I have to clear my throat. I had to make her a plate of my food. And it just already hit me wrong, because I told her I don't have a job.
I'm broke.
I don't have
We're
a
not
job.
going to eat together.
Yeah, but I can meet you afterwards. And yet now when I'm trying to eat the food that I have,
She went, that kind of looks good.
she did. She did. But do you want to know what the nail in the coffin was?
What?
She didn't finish it.
So she had a whole plate of food.
She didn't finish. She nibbled around it and gave me back the plate later to put in the sink. And I remember throwing her food away into the trash. Because even though I don't have money, I'm not at the point where I'm going to eat off of somebody else. It's not like It's not like I had no money whatsoever, but I'm just trying to conserve the money that I have to make it through multiple months. And at that point, it made me really, like, I sat there and realized people that you call your friends aren't necessarily your friends.
You see?
Right?
You see?
Right? And it's like people show their true colors
Yeah.
in like the most subtle ways. Kind of like what we were saying. Everything is nuanced. That is nuanced.
Yeah. And the thing is, if somebody shows you who they are, you got to believe them.
Right.
The
first time. Yeah.
Because they will play you.
But that's it. I think that's the thing that's hard for me to do, because I find myself to be very forgiving in friendships, because I'm just like, let's give people the benefit of the doubt. You know, we're in a very stressful environment. Graduate school is beating you down, blah, 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 blah.
No, because the thing is, grad school is beating you down too.
Right.
So worry about yourself.
I always be forgetting. I always say something like, whenever I'm talking to people, especially when I was doing stuff with the VGSA, I was always just like, yeah, I understand why you can't get this done. It's because you're a grad student.
And then you think, wait a second.
No,
I just did.
I don't-
You want me to do it? And I just did everything.
See,
And I'm a higher year than you. I should be writing my dissertation right now.
But no, that's the funny thing. I wouldn't even say that. It would be other people being like, yeah, I'm aware that this is that. Yeah,
Sorry, Cindy, but do my work for me.
pretty much. I have a lot of friendage issues. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I've told you this. I'm like, everyone that's your friend is holding you at gunpoint at any given moment.
Yeah.
I'm like this right now.
You really are.
Hands up. It's just like you're always at gunpoint and you're just like, yeah, sure, I could do that. Yeah, sure, I could do that. And then later on you reflect and you're like, dang,
I didn't want to
that
do
person sucks and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But if they text me again or call me again, I guess I'll talk to them.
No, it's actually, I've been getting better at that though. I've been getting,
Oh.
at least with, here's the thing. I get better at that whenever I move states. I've moved a lot, right? I've moved from Arizona, like, and I've done stuff in going to Portland for internships. I moved to Texas and I moved to California. Each time I move, I drop people. Because it's very easy for me, because I am not good with confrontation. That's something that I'm trying to work on. And even if you're not coming at me confrontational, I don't want to have a conversation with you to your face that I don't want to talk to you anymore. So I'm a ghoster.
Hey.
Fellow ghoster.
I'm definitely a ghoster.
Yeah.
But I don't have to move states.
Yeah.
I'll just stop talking to you one day
See?
and it will just be like
But
that.
I don't have that. Like, it's like you're saying when someone texts me, I'll respond back because I know I'm going to see you in person. And so if I don't respond to you and you see me out and about, you're going to be like, Cindy, why didn't you respond to me? And now I'm out in the open, feeling all eyes on me, feeling the pressure and like, yeah, it's the gun.
It's the
It's the gun to my face.
Me, I'll be like, I don't like you. I'm done.
And I wish I could do that, but I can't. Like, I feel as though I'm very ferocious, not to your face.
Yeah.
Like, if I were to have a conversation with you about all the people I don't like, I would come at you so hot. At the moment I see that person, that energy is
Hi,
gone.
how's it going?
Yeah. So it's something that I'm working on. And I feel like one of the things that I need to look into is how to best prioritize relationships. Because again, I'm like I've been having this conversation a lot with a lot of different people. I had a friend of mine who came to visit me. We were friends in college and we were having a conversation about my friends. And she said to me, Cindy, those aren't your friends. Those are acquaintances.
Yep.
And I was just like, I've heard that term used before, but I don't understand how to differentiate a friend and an acquaintance because it was a lot easier when we were younger, right? When you were younger, when you were like 5, 6, first grade, second grade, whatever, you would go to somebody and say, hey, are you my friend? And the person would respond yes or no. But now as adults, you don't really have that conversation of, hey, are you my friend? You just kind of go based off feeling, and all because you feel like someone's your friend doesn't necessarily mean that other person feels like that's your friend. And that's where the disconnect is coming from. Where it's like there are certain people that are not in, I guess you could quote on say my inner circle, who I feel comfortable talking about things in my inner circle. But in a case of an emergency, they may not be the first person that I call over the people that are in my quote unquote inner circle.
Yeah.
But then even within my inner circle, there's like not levels, but just differences where it's like there's someone who has been my really good friend, like probably one of my best friends since high school, right? Who she's a person whenever like I'm back in town, I could just pick up the call. It's like no time has passed. But technically our active like friendship relationship ended when I moved to Texas because I wasn't able to see her as often because she's in Arizona, I'm in Texas. So even though I still consider her one of my closest friends and someone that I could rely on, there's just certain things about my life that she doesn't know because she wasn't here to experience them.
Yep.
So then at that point, has she fallen into an acquaintance tier? I personally don't think so. But then if you would talk to somebody else, they'd be like, well, she's not an acquaintance, but... And I'm like, but what is that but? So from your personal perspective, because you've lived just as much life as I have, and I'm sure you have different like friendship distinctions, what would you consider the ideal amount of core friends? So like not, I guess, quote unquote, best friends, right?
Yeah. So overall, for me, friendship, I definitely treat that more strictly. I don't throw around that word friend. If we work together, we're coworkers. You might be able to take that extra step, but that's got to be outside of work.
Gotcha.
Like, there's a lot of people who are like, my work friends. Da-da-da. No, they're coworkers. So that aspect, and then also like, you know, they'll be like childhood friends. I'll talk to you for 10 years. We're no longer friends, babe. I don't know who you are at all. So I feel like for me, in general, the friendship, I feel like my definition of friend is tighter than yours.
Yes.
But on that note, I think the ideal amount of close friends, not even like best friends, because honestly, I feel like you don't need a best friend.
I don't even understand again, it's just words that are thrown around so often that I don't understand what they mean.
It's your bestest friend.
What does that mean?
Who's the number one friend, Cindy?
I don't.
Who's the number one friend? Wildin'.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess best friend it's just your number one friend. You know, like everybody watches TV shows. What's the number one TV show that you like?
See,
and even then you might not have one.
I can't even pick one. So
that's fair. But yeah, so I would say close friends in general, because best friends is a whole nother topic. Close friends in general, I think you need at least 3.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
But what at most, how much?
You see, close friends,
Yeah.
there's a max on that.
Of course.
Casual friends,
There's no max on casual friends. I don't
really,
think.
there's not a max. It's just like how many can you maintain, basically. But close friends, there's no way you could be close to 20 people.
Oh, no, not at all.
Like although you'll see weddings and then they have freaking like 10 bridesmaids. That's crazy.
See, but for those, I can understand it to an extent because I've had people who've had a lot of bridesmaids and it's instances in which it's like, well, I have friends that I wanted to have.
Yeah.
So they'd have like 3 close friends, but then it's like, oh, but you know, my extended family. So
Screw those hoes.
but I'm just
Screw all the hoes.
But I'm just saying that's what I've typically seen. There are a couple of times where there's brides who have 10, but in my experience in the weddings that I've gone to, when I've asked people like, how do you keep track of all these bridesmaids? Because most brides that I've talked to, they're just like anything.
That's my husband's sister.
Well, yeah, but they would typically say anything more than 4 bridesmaids is too much, or at least it was a lot for them.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, why would you do more? They would be like, pretty much, well, yeah, that's my husband's sister. This is my husband's like cousin who was very instrumental. Like she was the one who introduced us. So it would make sense.
Nah, you can sit in the audience and watch us.
Yeah, but that's us. But I'm just explaining.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree though.
Ooh.
You can't have more than, I think the cap actually for me might be 3 or 4 of like close friends, because I'm trying to think of the people, like the way that I think about it is this: if something were to happen to me, who are the people that I'm going to call to tell?
Yeah.
And the first, I only got 3 names that come up really quick. I'm not going to name drop because if
Yeah, you
someone,
don't have to name drop.
No. Because the way in which I do, because I have a lot of people that I care about who watch this podcast. If their name doesn't come up and I get a call, I hate confrontation. I hate confrontation. I can't do it.
It's just going to be all the guns surrounding you.
But I feel like I have, honestly, way too many casual friendships for me to keep up with personally.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the issue comes in, of the distinction of like casual friend to acquaintance. Because even still, loosey-goosey, whatever the terms, I believe that's blurred, but that's also because I've had so many casual friends throughout my life that just kind of go back and forth between casual friend and acquaintance. That it's like, at this point, it's just easy for me to say friend.
Yeah. I feel like at this point in time, I don't really have acquaintances. Well, what would we define an acquaintance as? Is it just like a person you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
A person that you know. I feel like the way that I could say an acquaintance is like a person that you know that you would feel comfortable having just like a neighborly conversation with.
Ooh.
Like, how is the weather? Did you see the game yesterday?
Regular small talk.
Like regular
people.
smart talk, but like it can go a little bit deeper as far as like, I'm going to actually ask what you're doing for like, what plans do you have for the weekend, and actually care to listen.
Yeah.
But maybe I won't follow up on it later on. It's just a hold conversation. That's what I would personally think is an acquaintance. A casual friend would be, you can do that, but it's a little bit deeper, where I'm starting to drop names, where it's just like, oh, my friend Chanel's coming this weekend. Oh, I have a podcast, right? But even still, it's no more than that.
Yeah.
And then I feel like a close friend from a casual acquaintance is like, I got into a fight with blah, blah, blah today, and this is how it went. What are your thoughts on this? Or this is my deepest insecurity. Like, I want to work through this. This is how I think the definitions are. But
I feel that I would co-sign that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would co-sign it.
yeah,
On that note, I do not have any acquaintances
or
casual friends, really. Not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of casual friends.
You have a lot.
I have a lot
Every time I'm like, Cindy, who you on the phone with?
Yeah.
Okay, who are you on the phone with now? Oh, I have a FaceTime with. And I'm
Yeah.
like, where are all these? Like, I swear, I could probably describe like 10 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah. And it's getting to the point where I've told people I don't want more friends. I don't need more friends, because trying to maintain the friendships that I have, it's getting to a point that it's a little exhausting.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not trying to say this for like anybody who is listening who I do consider a friend. If I'm still talking to you, I want to do it.
Yeah.
If I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't be putting in the time to like telling other people like, hey, I have these conversations. I wouldn't be doing it, but it's also a deterrent from me making new friends. Like as I'm reaching into my 30s, I understand that I'm changing and I'm growing. And this is not even like, we haven't even hit half of our lifespan yet, right? I will be meeting more people. I probably will be making more friends. But as it currently stands, I don't want any more. It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. And it's getting to a point where I'm happy with the people that I'm around, that I know that if I start making more friends, I'm going to have to start dropping people.
Ooh.
And that's the issue where I don't want to spend the time of doing like a numbering system of like, oh, you know, Chanel, she's a great friend, but you know, the other day she said something to me that I just
Don't do that to me.
She just said something to me the other day that I think she's, you know what I mean? It's just, that's not something that I want to do where I have to sit down and try to prioritize friendships, which is the reason why I end up getting more and more and more and more and becoming more and more overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, how I end up having a lot of bad friends, because I hold a lot in memories that I build with people, that even though someone's changing in front of me, I'm always going to go back and say, oh, but back way when we were close.
You see, I am not the same.
Yeah.
And this is probably why I have like no casual friends, because for me,
Yeah.
it ain't nothing, because I'm out. I don't care.
Yeah.
So like it, and I feel like we were talking about this in Napa with my mom and my aunt. Good times.
Yes.
So basically the concept that me and my mom always says this, you're an Aries, you're an Aries, you're an April Aries. Oh my God. She sounds just like that, doesn't she?
A little bit.
And so she says, because I'm an Aries, that I tend to be a person who will cut someone off, but it has to be for a good reason.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to be like, okay, well, I'm never going to speak to you again because you looked at me weird.
Yeah.
It's got to be something to where I'm like, oh, yeah, we're not coming back from that.
Yeah.
Oh, we're done, you know? And so I could tell you some of my stories of cutting people
You should tell me. Because
It's
watch
good
me here and be like,
times.
oh, yeah, someone did that to me and I let it slide.
You see, you be letting too much slide.
Yeah, I'll let you. We can talk about the things that I let slide, and then we can get into your.
Golly.
Or you first, then back to me.
Whew. So let's see. The funniest one to me is I see you smiling.
I feel like I already know, but tell it to me, Chanel. Tell it to me.
Because it's so funny.
It's honestly. Tell it to me again. I want a good laugh.
Okay, let's see if we're thinking of the same one. So, you know, it was April time.
Knew it. I knew it. But continue.
So, it was actually April 18th, my birthday. Ah! And so I went out the night, or I went out on my birthday, and then the next day.
So this is, you're talking about, you went out from like, it was the 18th and you went out the evening of the 18th.
Yes, I went out on the evening of the 18th, and I got lizard.
This is you in the club.
Cindy, I was doing that, but I was blacked out. I do not remember that night.
I don't think you told me you blacked out.
I blacked out. One and never again. I blacked out. So
what birthday was this? How
the
old?
23rd, my what do they call it? Kobe year? Jordan year?
I think it's your
23?
Jordan year. 24 is Kobe year.
Okay. My Jordan year.
Yeah.
I know basketball. So yeah, I was like, let's go hard. I'm ready.
Yeah.
We pre-gamed. Mistake. Pre-gamed. I had a drink and a shot. We're already mixing. I think there was Jägermeister and something, vodka, something. I don't know what was going on. And then, so after that, we went to the club. I was still coherent. I was still there.
Right.
I was holding on
Mm-hmm.
like this. And so people were buying me shots and all this stuff. And after like probably the second shot after we got there, I was gone.
Dang.
I'm a lightweight.
Yeah.
Any more than like 3 drinks,
Yeah.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Damn.
Gone. So during this night, blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in the bathroom and I was like, just, standing there waiting for my friends. Why did I throw up in the sink? I threw up in the sink. I'm telling you, Cindy, I was gone. My body gave up on me. Never again.
Yeah.
That's the tagline from that night.
Never again.
I was saying that the night and I was saying that the next day. Never again.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't been so far. But yeah, so threw up in the club. One of the bouncers was in the bathroom trying to sort something out. I don't know why. And he was like, she's got to go. And I was like, I got to go. I need to be gone.
Yeah.
And so we're waiting outside because they're going to drive me back to one of their apartments, right? Mm-hmm. And I am like this. And someone is holding me up against the wall. Cindy, you keep being shocked. I was gone, Cindy. So then after that, they put me in the car. And in the car, I'm going... And then the guy driving the car, one of our friends was like, you are not throwing up in my car. You are not throwing up in my car. And he's like, hold up. I'm going to pull over just in case you have to throw up. And so I have a wonderful picture. I will show you that picture. I'll let Cindy decide if she'll allow it to be in the podcast or not. But I'll show you the picture of me like, I cannot do this. And it's just me sitting like, you know how restaurants will just have like empty chairs in front of their thing? I'm sitting at one of those, hands on my head, like face in between my knees because I'm like done, like just trying to survive. So then they dropped me off. I was throwing up the whole 9. They took care of me until I went to sleep. And then they went
friends,
out.
by the way.
Good friends.
Yeah,
this was during my master's program.
Yeah.
So we had a little clique going.
Good friends.
But yeah, so they went back out and they partied. And I was like, yeah, y'all partied for me.
Yeah.
Because I could not hang.
Yeah.
Woo. So then the next day I wake up and I'm...
Right. You're trying to stabilize. Were you hungover?
I think I was still drunk the next day.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Even with all the vomiting, I was still drunk. So then I was supposed to meet one of my friends. The friend. The said friend. So we have birthdays back to back. So just one day after is her birthday.
Yeah.
I also have a friend who has a birthday
a week after,
3 days earlier.
Oh, okay.
And then one that has a birthday a week after.
Yeah.
April people, birthday people.
I mean, it'd be happening.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Everybody is born in April. Like, damn.
But also I feel like attracts like, because some of my closest friends were all Scorpios. And one of my friends, like, I guess one of my closest friends, her birthday is 4 days after mine.
Yeah. So maybe it's like that. And then also, it's a mathematical fact that if you have even a small amount of people in the same room, there's a high probability that you two have the same birthday.
Yeah.
So it's probably that too. But anyways, so the next day, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean. And so I was like, okay, we had plans to go to lunch. Me and her would just go to lunch regularly.
Yeah.
Not anything fancy, like literally a casual dining restaurant.
Yeah.
You just walk in, sit down, the whole 9. And so I text her and I'm like, hey, I'm not at home, right? So I'm different. I'm by the school. I'm gone. So I text her and I'm like, hey, so I went out last night for my birthday, obviously. It's not going to happen today, baby.
Yeah.
Let's reschedule for a different time. And, we'll have our little lunch. And so I sent that literally like 2 minutes later, I get a block to the point where I'm scrolling. I'm scrolling. And basically the gist of the message was, I can't believe you. I can't believe you would do this to me on my birthday. On my birthday. Why would you do this to me on my birthday? We were going to go out to lunch. And I was looking forward to it. How dare you? Whatever. Yada, yada, yada. I don't remember most of the text. So after all of that block text, just her going off on like, I can't believe you did this. Like, how irresponsible, da, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
Would you like to guess what I text back?
I already know, but tell the audience.
LOL.
Yeah.
I just text back LOL, and I have never spoken to her
Again.
Rightfully
so.
Yeah. That's where it's like, in that moment, that was an immediate cutoff for me because you're being ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you're being selfish.
Yeah.
And you're only considering yourself.
Right.
You want me to get in a car
While
and
you're still
drunk, risk my life, risk other people's life so that we can have lunch.
Yeah.
I could understand if it was like we had a trip planned or we had a Beyonce concert to go
Just
to.
something that is an exorbitant amount of money that couldn't have been refunded.
And was planned way in advance and everybody knew.
Not something that was recurring. Like you just said you would have these
we
lunches
would have
often.
regular lunches literally like every other week. It was not a big deal. Just a local restaurant.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's not.
Yeah.
So something like that. It ain't gonna cut that off. So like, that's why I feel like I don't have a lot of casual friends, because I feel like you have to prove to me that you are deserving to be my friend. That's how it is.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy, but that's how it is.
Well, I feel like it's not crazy because you have to protect your own time.
True.
Like I think it's not crazy because you are centering yourself over everybody else. Like you have to ensure that the person who's going to be coming and being active in your life is not going to derail your life.
Yeah.
Because in your story, you are the most important person and everybody else is just a side character.
It's
and
true.
I feel like that's how it should work.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm working on.
You working on it, girl.
Do you want to hear my story? And I'm going to tell you this person and I were no longer friends, but after this event, we were friends for 3 more years.
I'm going to be mad.
Okay. So I will say this happened my junior year of college, right? I was in a chemical engineering program. We were taking difficult classes because it's like, I think it was the second semester of junior year. And I believe most degrees, the second semester junior year and the first semester senior year are typically your hardest semesters because that's where you're doing the core, like you're practically in your degree at that point and you're doing like the core of your degree.
Yeah.
During that point. So I was doing those courses. I will say, I'm not going to say I'm stupid, but I will say that these courses were not showcasing that I was bright.
Yeah.
Like I was doing pretty badly, and
Women in STEAM, we have been humbled
many of times. And I was getting severely humbled.
Yes.
My scores weren't coming back great. And around all of this, right, it was one of the hardest semesters. I get a call from my parents that my grandfather had passed away. And this was the grandfather that it's not like, because my parents are from Nigeria, my grandparents are also Nigeria. I wasn't really close to them, but this is the one that like I actually wrote like a paper on when I was in high school that like got me like very high scores. And it was like he was there, so I was getting like a first person account. And he was also the one that we'd always send like ASU sweatshirts and stuff, and he would wear them. And so he was like very proud because it was just like, I think it's my mom's dad, and my mom was the oldest, so I was the first grandkid and also the first grandkid to go to college in America. So there was just a lot of pride, right? So I didn't realize, because I always said it's like, oh, I didn't know him. But I didn't realize how much it affected me. I just started walking around, and if people saw me, it was like there was a dark cloud over me. And I just like, I couldn't figure out a way to process my emotions. As people like, there's no way to go through mourning, right? And the way that I was doing it was just like trying to pretend it didn't happen. But it was obvious that everybody around me knew something was happening. And the one person who brought that to my attention was my friend and roommate at the time. So I was working and I was doing work in the living room or in the kitchen or whatever. It's just, you know how like most apartments are built, living room, kitchen. And I'm just trying to do my work. And my roommate at the time calls me to her room and it's like, I want to talk to you. So I'm like, okay, cool. I go in and I'm confused because our other roommate is outside. So I'm like, why are we closing the door? Like, I don't understand why this conversation's happening in the room, but whatever. Right. Mm-hmm. The first thing she says to me is she's like, have you noticed how I haven't been spending a lot of time in the living room? And I was just like, no, not really. Because she was the type of person that whenever she wanted to focus, she would close herself up in the room. And like I explained, we were in a very like rigorous semester. So I just assumed because of all the assignments, she was just locking herself up in the room. She was like, she then continued. She was like, you didn't notice? I was like, no. And
I don't live to watch you.
Right. And she was just like, I haven't been coming out into the living room because you've been there. And I was like, well, yeah, because I live here. I've always been here. I don't understand.
She's playing 20 questions.
I don't understand what's the difference. And she's just like, being around you has sucked recently. And I was just like, okay. And she's like, I don't feel comfortable around you. She's like, you haven't really been doing well in your courses. And every single time I get a good score, you're always talking about how stupid this is and stupid that is and how stupid whatever. And it makes me feel bad about my success. Like, I don't feel like I can talk about my successes because I do not believe that you would celebrate me. And I was just like, okay. I was like, I don't understand how that's pertinent. I was like, you've always been better at me and stuff. And we've always talked about how my scores are worse than yours. And to my knowledge, you haven't stopped. Like, I've heard you talk about it. So I don't like, I was like very confused. Right.
Yeah.
And ultimately she was like, she continued into saying, I've been talking to my mom because I don't feel comfortable in my home. And my mom says that since I was the one who got this apartment first, I should have the right to be comfortable in my own place. So the solution isn't for me to leave. The solution is for you to leave. So I'm kicking you out of the apartment.
What?
And I said,
are you out of your mind?
I was like, what? And she was just like, yeah. And she's like, unless you want to try to fix what's going on, I'm going to kick, like, you're going to be kicked out of the apartment because I don't want to feel uncomfortable in my place.
Was she?
Of course.
Yes.
And so in that moment, I started to cry, right? Like, I just started to bawl. And she was just like, why are you like, it's not fair. I'm the one who's upset, but you're the one who's crying. You're making me look like I'm the villain. And I was just like, I don't mean to be a bad friend. I've just been going through a lot. And she proceeded to say, we're all going through the same thing. Like, school, like, we're all going through school. It's hard for everybody. And then I go, no, my grandfather died. And she stopped in her tracks.
She's a loser, bro.
She literally looked at me and was just like, when did your grandfather die? And at that point, it was like pretty much in the span of time that I've been, I think it was like 2-3 weeks. So in that time frame in which I started making her feel uncomfortable was a time frame in which my grandfather had been dead.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I'm your friend. Why wouldn't you tell me? And I was like,
Look at what you just said to me, girl.
But I had said to her, well, that's not how I process. Like, I'm not the type of person who goes and talks about things that are bothering me like that. I need time to process it on my own. And I literally said, maybe I'm not processing it well, but like, that's how I'm processing it. She started to say, she's like, well, I told you about my grandfather when my grandfather was sick. And I was like, yeah, but that's you. And I was there for you then, but that wasn't the support that I needed at this time. I'm still working through it. And she was just like, well, again, that's not fair because you're making me out to a bad person. And
let me just interject for a second.
Yeah.
Of this lovely story.
Mm-hmm.
I love when people tell on themselves.
Yeah.
Whenever they're like having a conversation with someone. Because why is your first instinct when someone bursts out crying?
Yeah.
Oh, you're trying to make me look like the villain. That's because when she cries, she's trying to make somebody else look like the villain. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's shady. Yeah. And then, oh, your grandpa, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
I know I just tried to kick you out of the apartment because you're not catering to my every whim.
Mm-hmm.
But why didn't you tell me your most vulnerable little thing that's going on right now?
Mm-hmm.
Why not, Cindy?
Yeah.
Trash.
So that continued. I mean, in the span of this as well, she told me that I need to be, and I honestly, she's probably the reason why I have so many insecurities, but she told me that I lack self-awareness.
What did I to say. People tell on themselves all the time.
She told me I lack self-awareness, specifically because I wasn't aware about how my actions and emotions make other people feel. She told me that she wasn't the only one that was uncomfortable, that her other roommate was also uncomfortable. Oh, I actually do remember why the other roommate wasn't in there, because she tried to talk to me about things that bothered her before in front of the other roommate, and the other roommate was taking her side. So I said to her, if we're going to have a conversation, we don't need a third party, because I feel like I'm being attacked. Because if you're telling me, yeah, we don't like when you do, I don't like when you do this, I don't like when you do this, and somebody else is going, yeah, I
like it
agree.
either.
Yeah, I agree. That's going to make me feel like I'm being attacked. And so I was just like, so she brought it into the room, and I was like, I don't understand why, like, and she was like, this is the reason why we're doing it. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't understand why this is not more of an open conversation. Because if you're saying you and this other roommate are having this issue, then we should be having this conversation. It's different now because you're saying two people are having an issue versus you're having an issue and someone's trying to interject.
Yeah.
But after all of this, because again, I'm beaten, right? I'm mentally exhausted. Like, I'm mentally exhausted. School is kicking my butt. I'm like going through the mourning of my grandfather, and now supposedly somebody who's my good friend and roommate is telling me that I've been a terrible person. So I just proceeded to profusely apologize, being like, I will do better. And I continue to be friends with this girl up through graduating high school and into my PhD.
Absolutely crazy.
And you want to know what's even crazier? I actually talked to people who I was super close to, because when I finally ended that friendship, there were some friends who were just like, we've been waiting for this to happen.
Yeah.
But like, what was the nail in the coffin? And I started listing all the things that I went through. I actually didn't tell a lot of the people that I was close with that I had this conversation with her, because I was so embarrassed that I was a bad person.
Bizarro.
Right. Yep. But all that to say is, it's funny how in your situation, right, they're both bad, but in your situation, you were able to be like, LOL, and not talk to them. And in my situation, I was like, I'm sorry, and continue to be friends with them.
And you let that affect your psyche.
I really did.
Crazy.
I really did.
I don't got the energy for that.
I don't know where I get the energy, because I'd be tired.
That's facts. So let's talk about our friendship. What's going on, girl?
Is this a therapy session?
Is it a therapy
I
session?
don't know.
How do you feel about our friendship?
How do you feel about Chanel? Well, we're here doing a podcast.
Yeah.
So we obviously like each other enough to do a podcast
right.
together.
Can we talk about the first time we met?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I saw you just went somewhere.
I was trying to remember what that was. Because we met. We met
like a few times.
And I feel like we've met a total of 3-4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the first time we met. So I'll tell it from my perspective, and then you can tell it from me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was very active in school, because what I do whenever I try to run away from trauma, I try to put myself more into other things. So while I was trying to run away from the responsibility of grad school, I think I was the president at this time. I think I was the vice president at this time. Maybe. I was just active.
Yeah, you were
But I was the vice president of the Black Graduate Student Association on campus. And at Rice University, what they do every single year for recruiting is they have this event called Night at the Museum, where they resent.
That was a Freudian slip. 100%.
Yeah.
That's great. That was beautiful.
Anyway, where they rent a room in a museum, so you can tell the school comes from money. They rent an entire room. It's the dinosaur room in a museum, and they allow all the new students, specifically in STEM, all the new students, or prospective students, not new students, but prospectives, people who are invited for the recruitment weekend, to have an opportunity to mix and mingle in a more casual space with the faculty of their respective departments that they're being recruited for. And then the like graduate postdoctoral studies office, they would invite like organizations such as the Black Graduate Student Association, Latin American Graduate Students Association, Queer Graduate Student Association, just affinity organizations to kind of mix and mingle to kind of show the balance of the academia and then your personal life. So as a part of the Black Graduate Student Association, my responsibility was to kind of walk around and like find Black students and tell them about the BGSA. But as you know, and as most other people know, finding Black people in grad school is few and far between.
Yep.
For one. Two, finding women in STEM graduate programs are few and far between. So when you combine both of those, Black women in graduate programs at a university that's predominantly white, that's like finding a needle in a haystack, finding the gold at the end of the rainbow. And that's the reason why I'm gonna preface it, because I was walking around and lo and behold, 2 Black women just walk right past me.
2 needles in a haystack.
I won the lottery.
Yeah. So, I can't wait until my part. Go ahead.
So I look over and I make eye contact with Kyra.
Yes.
And Kyra taps you.
Yes.
I'm sure it says something.
Oh my God.
I'm sure she said something to you. And then y'all walked over. And that was the first time we met.
Woo! Okay, so from my perspective, first of all, we just spent the whole, like, I think it was a couple days.
It might have been.
I think it was a couple days.
It might have been.
Because we were in a hotel the whole 9. So
I think it was like you guys probably, the way it works is Night at the Museum is a Friday night.
Yeah.
And typically people come in Thursday.
Yeah.
Because it's like the first big event at the end of the day. But typically, at least for my department, you came in Thursday night. Mm-hmm. You were with the department all of Friday, Night at the Museum Friday night, and you still had like a Saturday to do stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what it was for sure. And so, you know, me and Kyra, we're the homies because we also met by chance before.
That's right. At like a conference beforehand.
Just on a whim, met her, and then we found out that we were going to this together. And so we were like, hey, what's up, girl? Like, we literally just walked into I went, hey, somebody in here?
Oh, you guys were in the same room.
Yeah, so we both went, I know you.
That's
oh my
crazy.
Gosh, I know you. And so that was clutch. And especially with both of us being Black women in this program.
Yeah.
That was necessary. So we were so tired already because we spent literally the entire day going from professor to professor to professor, individual meetings with each professor. You have the same conversation over and over and over and over again. And it's really like, oh, so can you tell me about the program? Oh, tell me about yourself. Oh, you know, all the same interview type questions. And you don't know if you're in yet. So you're still trying to be like, you know? And so after all that nonsense, we're tired. Yeah. So we end up going to the event. We're hungry. So we're in line for some food. Hey. And so me and Kyra are just sitting there standing. And then Kyra goes, that Black lady's I don't know. She just looks really excited. I was like, wait, who? And she's like, and I was like, yeah, she does look really excited. We were like, watch, she's probably a part of one of the Black clubs. And sure enough, when we walked over there, you were like, hi, I'm Cindy. And, you know, I'm a part of the BGSA. And we were
you also have to realize from my perspective as well, I don't have anyone to talk to. I don't want to be talking to my department either. So when I see Black people, I'm like, it doesn't even matter if you're new or not. It doesn't even matter if you're coming.
Yep.
You're going to keep me company throughout the duration of this event. I don't even care.
Woo.
Because what was it? Because my school, like I think at this time I was the president of my department's graduate student association as well, something like that. Like I was involved with them as well, but I don't like I don't like these people.
Yeah,
I don't like these people. So when I saw y'all, I was like, because if I saw a Black man, I'm not going to talk to him.
I understand that.
Right?
I understand.
So I saw not one, two Black
and we
women.
were already paired up.
Right. So that's the reason, like, to add more context as to why I was excited, I was just like, I'm going to get through this event.
Yeah. Period.
But I can understand, like, just...
You were on one, and you're like, this is so-and-so, and this person's so-and-so,
Yeah.
and this person, how are you guys liking it here? Is there anything you want to know? And
Yeah.
we were like, we're tired.
Yeah.
We don't want to answer any more questions,
just-
ask any more questions.
Yeah.
So that's the first time we met.
Mm-hmm.
The second time, you said that you saw me in like a Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was during COVID, because you came literally right before COVID hit. And so they were trying to do ways in engaging people via Zoom. So
Yeah.
there was like a Black women's luncheon. That was a thing that we were trying to start via Zoom. So all women at Rice who identified, like, checked a box and said they were Black and were interested in, like, being a part of these sessions were getting invites to come and be in community over Zoom. Right. And that was the second time I saw you. But I don't think at the time I pieced together you were the person that I met at the, like, night at the museum.
yeah.
Right. I did not piece that together. And I just remember one thing that I remember about you was that we were talking about new hobbies, and you stated that you got a fancy blender
Yes.
and that you were really excited to use that fancy blender.
I still have that fancy blender,
Yeah.
and I still use it.
So that was the second time, but we didn't really speak.
No, I didn't even know you were in there.
Yeah. So because I only remember that, like, later on when I was like, I think you were there and you had the blender.
Yep.
And you were like, that was me. The third time you came up,
Yes.
funny enough, wasn't even with the two of us. It was with my friend Shweta.
Yes, I forgot about this.
You were trying to move into Shweta's place.
Yes.
So Shweta and I, at the time, we had formed a COVID bubble because I had moved, and Shweta's house was within walking distance of my home. So it was Shweta, her now husband. They were living together, and then it was me. And I think there was one other friend, and she was just like, I need more people. Like, this isolation is getting a lot. Like, I need to go outside. We like worked together. We worked in the same building, just on different floors. And she's like, we can make a COVID bubble. Like, we can go into work together. Because, another thing, they didn't have a car.
Yeah.
So it was now difficult for them because they didn't want to use ride sharing and stuff to get places to get groceries. So she was just like, hey, here's the thing. You know we're safe. I know you're safe. Do you want to create a COVID bubble together? Right? So we can go and get groceries together and whatnot. In the process of all this, she started having really bad knee issues. And she was just like, me having to do, because they mainly walk to school. If not, if I couldn't take them, they would walk to school. Because, scheduling was sometimes different. When we could go together, we could. And she came to me one day and she's like, Cindy, we have to move. Like, I can't keep up with walking to school at this distance.
Yeah.
We found a place that's like less than half a mile from campus, and we're going to get it. But we're now in the process of trying to get rid of our space. And so she was going through this process. She came up to me one day and goes, do you by chance know a Chanel? And I'm like,
Maybe. I don't know.
I was like, yeah, maybe. Why? And she was like, trying to say that you were Black without saying you were
Yeah.
Black. And I was like, I mean, it's COVID. If she's a new person, I've never seen her in person.
Right.
And I was like, is she a part of the BGSA? And Shweta was like, well, I would think so. She just assumed, again, because you were Black. But I think you might have been going to, like, events through maybe here
like
and there.
one.
Yeah. So she was saying that, like, I don't know what organization Chanel is a part of, but she said she's been going to events, and I would assume it's the BGSA. And I was like, I don't know a Chanel. Like, I've never met a Chanel. The name's not ringing and coming to mind. And she was like, well, she was here in person beforehand. I was like, yeah, I probably never met her. But Shweta was like, you need to meet her. She's really cool. And I really think the two of you would be really good friends. And I looked at her and I was like, I love Shweta down. But I was just like, this is the most racist thing you've ever said to me. Shweta, I know, because I know she's going to listen.
The way she was right.
She was right. But
was
I
right.
didn't know. I was like, Shweta, I know you're going to hear this. You were right. But girl, I really thought you were being racist. I really did.
I'm actually cool.
Yeah.
Not just Black.
Right. But that was the third time that I ran into you. But it was the second conscious time that I ran into you.
Yeah.
The final time that we ran into each other. No, was this? No, I think there was two more times.
I know the only other one I remember is you guys were hosting a table
Yeah.
with jollof rice and
Yes.
whatnot for what was it? It was like a cultural thing, right? Cultural day or something.
What is it
People
called at
walking around.
Rice?
I can't remember what it's called.
I can't remember what it is either.
It's probably BS
Culture
name.
Day, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. But we were just walking,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were like, "Oh, there's a bunch of food around." Me and Kyra.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a bunch of food around. I don't know. Is that one girl that?
And the thing that's crazy is I recognized Kyra. I didn't recognize you.
And then we came up and we were like, "Hi,
Yeah. And I was like, oh, hey.
hey."
Mm-hmm. And so y'all got,
too.
and y'all got food.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because you were like, "Please take this food."
Well, it's because here is my whole thing. There was a lot of people who were coming up who weren't respectful of the culture because they were just looking at us as like black people who had seasoned food. You know what I mean? Like I was sitting there trying to talk to them about the BGSA, talking to them where it originated from. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
Nobody cared to listen. And I was like, you guys don't deserve this food. It's like, I want to give it to people who actually care.
Mm-hmm.
So when y'all came over, I was like, take the food and bring Tupperware.
Yep. We sure did.
And y'all sure did.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the last time that we kind of technically met before
Yeah.
we actually had a full-fledged conversation. And where the friendship began was at a GEM conference that happened in Houston.
Ooh, that was a good
Right.
conversation.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. That I will say is a conversation that radicalized me. Like I truthfully believe I was a different Cindy by the time that conversation ended.
I believe it. 'Cause
Yeah.
me and Kyra were spitting.
You were spitting.
We were spitting.
Spitting.
And the fact that I feel like we radicalized so many people because
Yeah.
we had that same like general conversation of like, here's everything we're going through in this program and it sucks with professors.
Yeah.
We had that with other graduate students. And at first they were like, you guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. But before we left, they were like, you guys were right.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, duh.
Yeah.
Listen.
And you want to know something that's actually so funny from that conversation as well? Almost everybody at that table, with the exception of one, but I didn't like her going into it,
Yeah.
are people that I still consider I'm really close to. Because I still, like, obviously I see you a lot, but I see Kyra very often. And I keep in contact with Marquise.
Yep.
Like, I just went to his wedding.
Yep.
And it's just like, I wonder if it's I think it's like the trauma bonding,
Trauma bonding.
which I think is a conversation that needs to be had as well, because trauma bonding needs to go in a different category.
Yeah.
Because I think trauma bonding is also the reason why I have a lot more casual friendships.
Yeah.
Because I think it surpasses that, like, you know, the way we did the ranking where acquaintances is whatever and casual, your close friendships is when you're able to go like, and like talk about things that are personal to you. Right?
Yep.
Like being able to call someone up and be, this is my insecurity. But when you're trauma bonded, you
It's
skip
all out
of
on the
that.
line.
It's
You
all-
just meet a person and you tell them your entire life story.
Where there's like, there was a point where people at Rice, just like my lab mates, knew me better than my closest friends.
Yep. Because you're all just suffering together.
Yeah. So I feel like that's also another reason why I've gone through a lot of trauma and I've bonded with a lot of people. Hence the reason why my casual friends are like out the wazoo.
Yep.
But anyway, that's how we met.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this before, but the friendship kind of grew because we found a similarity in the fact that we like to both cook.
Yep.
So you came over and chefed up quite a
I
lot.
was whipping.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember conversations we had because it was me, you, Kyra, and Eva. We would be over at my place and we'd just be sitting down having conversations.
Talking for hours.
And there would just be times where we'd look at each other and it's like we would be like, the two of us could survive on a deserted island together.
Yeah.
The two of us could do this together. Like, it wouldn't be that much of a deal.
Yep.
Like, we had conversations where it's just like, we are very aligned in a way where this just works.
Yeah. And I will say, along the lines of trauma bond, especially, I've the conversations you would have, just you would come up with like the deepest questions.
Me?
No, just in
Oh,
general.
okay.
Like all of us,
Yeah.
when we would talk, we would just like pose a question. Like this is a Socratic seminar.
Yeah.
And then just go off on like
Yeah.
tangents talking about these things. And we still do that every once in a while.
We do.
and it'll be 3 a.m.
Well,
and we're like,
and there was a podcast before the podcast. It was those
podcast
conversations
before the
that led us
podcast.
to this point.
it's facts.
Yeah.
Look at us.
It's crazy. It's actually insane.
Yes,
But yeah, that's our friendship as of now.
it is.
And it's not ending anytime soon. So we'll see. And I'm really glad we're doing this podcast because it's going to be an archive for us to look back onto.
It is.
I'm really interested to see how like 30-year-old Chanel and Cindy, but like 40-year-old Chanel and Cindy, how we're talking,
60.
how we're talking about ourselves and our friendships. And I'm sure we're going to look back and be like, wow, we didn't even know, like we were just only the tip of the iceberg. Yep. So yeah.
Yes.
Are there any closing thoughts?
I think friendships are vital.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely vital. I would not be able to function without friends.
Right.
But I feel like there is a certain limit for me for friendships, and I have to protect myself at all costs.
Yeah.
But friendship is vital.
Yeah.
I think I definitely want to continue to make friends in the future, but they gotta be the right ones. Period.
For me, I'm going back and forth. I do believe I have a lot, but I do believe a good chunk of them are still necessary. I will forever believe and forever think that you and I, when it comes to friends, I will always have a vaster friend group than you will have. But at the same time, I need to start thinking of myself as the main character and keep main character energy.
Yeah.
Where I need to learn that it's okay to cut people off or know that people serve a purpose.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
and also
time period in your life. Yeah.
And also add distinctions. Like you say coworkers, but I will still say my work friends, right? But I feel as though when I say work friends, you will understand it's like, these are the people that I will go and talk to at work. These are the people that I'll have in-depth conversations. These are the people that I probably will talk about my weekend with or stuff. But these aren't the people I'm going to call up and be like, hey, my birthday's tomorrow.
Yeah,
You want to come and celebrate? You know?
Yeah.
So I need to work on it. I do believe I'm better off than however old Cindy was junior year in college because
Jesus Christ. You ever see that girl again? Just tell her about herself.
No, I literally, it was one of those things where she said something to me along the lines of like, I was going through it. I was really going through it. It was my sophomore year my second year of my PhD. And I was really going through it. I was really, really going through it. And I wasn't talking to anybody. Right. And this is how like the girl who like kind of backed her up a little bit, we still talk. And the reason why we still talk is for the what she did in that period. She called me out of nowhere, like out of completely nowhere. And I picked up the phone and I tried to pretend everything was okay. And she's like, I'm very concerned. Like, this is very unlike you. You're not the person to disappear off the face of the earth. I was just thinking about you. And I was like, I haven't heard from Cindy. Are you okay? Like, what do you need from me to help you? Because this is not like you. And I literally said to her, like, I appreciate this so much. Nobody in my life right now is checking on me like that. Thank you so much for checking on me. And I started to apologize. And she's like, you don't need to apologize. Like, this is not something you apologize for. And so even though we're not close, like, I will forever remember that moment. It's one of those things, like, even if we're not close friends, she will always be in my book as someone like, if you need something from me, I'm going to give it to you because you're the only person in that time period who cared enough to see that I was okay.
Yeah.
Versus old girl who, after all of this, this friend was just like, hey, and I also want to let you know, like, this other friend is worried about you, or not worried. She's mad at the fact you're not calling us. So you should call her. So I called her and tried to explain to her my situation. And she literally said to me, oh, it's because you're choosing not to be happy. I'm telling her I'm being emotionally and verbally abused by my advisor. And she told me it's because I chose not to be happy. Then she proceeded to tell me why her advisor was worse than mine because she was going through, I think this was, I don't know what it was, but she was going through like the emotional taxing that is grad school herself.
Yeah.
And her advisor had suggested that she potentially should take a leave of absence. Like, take a couple of months, go back home, reset, and come back. And she was taking it as her advisor thought she was being weak. And so she's like, what I'm dealing with is worse. So after she told me all of that.
This lady is a psychopath.
Yeah.
She needs help or to, like, leave people alone.
Yeah. So after that, I proceeded to stop talking to her. I only, like, only time, it pissed me off so much. Like, I think that's the issue. You have to get me angry for me to do something. If I reach a point where I'm angry, because I don't think I'm quick to anger, but I'm not one to hold a grudge.
Yeah.
If I'm the type of person where I go to sleep and I wake up and I'm still mad at you, you've pushed me to an extent.
That's another type of
anger. And it got to a point where I said, I'm not going to call her back until I'm no longer angry. Do you know when she finally reached back out to me?
3 years.
No, it took 5 months because it was my birthday. She reached out to me the day after my birthday, being like, happy belated birthday. It had been 5 months since I had texted her. And even after she texted me, I was still pissed off.
Yep.
And if she proceeded to afterwards send me a message that you had to scroll through being like, I think you're going through something and I really want to be here for you for it. But if you don't think this friendship is going to last, blah, 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 blah. I worked and crafted a message being like, yeah, I don't want to be your friend anymore. I think this friendship has run its course. And I was like, as of right now, I don't want a response from you. And if I'm ready to talk to you again, I will reach out to you myself. I sent the message and I blocked her immediately.
Good.
And I don't even think I unblocked her. I feel like she's still blocked. So I have no idea.
What a beautiful
if she
story.
said anything to me. And this was like, it's been 2 to 3 years, I think, at this point.
Good.
Yeah. But another thing as well, because I was seeing a counselor at the time, the counselor was just like, that's a power move on her as well. Why is she using your birthday as a way to confront you over the fact that you haven't been speaking to her?
Yep.
She waited all of this time, and then the day after, and she's like, and she didn't even send it to you on your birthday.
Yep.
She waited till the day after your birthday to text you late, happy birthday, and then try to emotionally manipulate you into apologizing like she did before in the past.
She's an emotional abuser.
She is.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that again.
I'm trying.
Don't do that again.
I'm trying. I think the thing that I'm doing now is I'm aware of people who I can trust. In the sense of like the close, like I go to you and I talk to you. We had a conversation about like the friendships that I had. Like, I think this was the drive down from like Orange County to San Diego, where I was talking to you about my friends and we were going through and you were just like, that's not a good friend.
Oh my God.
That's not a good friend. That's
Girl,
not a good friend.
You told me a whole story and I was like, the conclusion of that story is that person is a raging racist. And you went, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I'm going to try to do. I will have other people as sounding boards, going and talk to them about like the situations that I've been going through. And then I think I don't trust my feelings that much, where like when something's bothering me sometimes, I just think it's me being like too emotional. And again, that is stuff that was said to me pretty much on the same day. That moment, it's so bad that even though I'm not friends with her, she will be prevalent in my life for so long because that conversation literally just rewired my brain chemistry. Yeah. Because it really made me super insecure about who I am as a person. Because I thought I was just navigating life, but she was just pretty much like, Kendrick, I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk, the way that you dress. So she did tell me she hated the way that I dress, but I digress.
Crazy girl.
I digress.
And you know what's funny though? You know that everything that she said about you is how she feels about herself. Yep. And she's just out here trying to drag people down to the pathetic person that she is. Yep. Trash. Yep. We don't be friends with those people anymore.
I'm working on it.
No more.
No more. So that is, for my closing, that is what I'm working on. Being more aware of myself, that I'm the main character. I don't need to be spending my time to make sure everybody else is okay. I need to worry about myself. And then as long as it's not being malicious, of course, but I don't think I'm a malicious person. And then if people are going to react negatively to it, then those aren't the people that need to be around me. And that will make my life easier because I already have too many friends. So yeah, if people want to walk themselves out of my life, at least I don't have to do it myself.
Period.
So
Period.
Yeah, those are my friends.
That's that.
And that's that.
Well, it was nice talking to you, Cindy.
It was nice talking to you too. Winston, do you have anything you want to say?
Nothing.
Normally
he's screaming.
Really? He really is. Well, okay then. Bye, Chanel.
Bye. Is someone knocking on my door? Hello? Open the door. Open the door. I'm filming a podcast right now. Goodbye.
Hi.
You want to say hi to the podcast?
No, thank you.
Okay, bye.